Well, there's some sights to see. I see Dave Stange up in Michigan, and is that Tommy Usiak in Pennsylvania? And how about Doug Forrest? Yeah, I can see all the way to Los Angeles there. Hello, everybody. Of course, I'm Marquette, and we're here to stay star curious on this Stay Curious episode, Monday, June 24th, 2024. And what's this I have behind me on the green screen there? I'll let you figure that out in a few minutes there. Has something to do with backyard astronomy that we love talking about to you all here. Welcome, everybody. We have Logan Cope is back in the saddle, our intern from Eastern Florida State College. Marty's looking over his shoulder. Marty Winkel, my co-producer of Stay Curious for over 4 years now. We've done about 1,075 episodes. Hope that you've enjoyed a lot of them, and you can see the repeats on our YouTube channel and our Facebook video library there. So got a great program together here for you. We're going to talk a little bit about some current events news that's happening on the space station and is happening on worlds far, far away. A great new Webb telescope image that I'm going to show you here at the end of our Stay Curious, Star Curious program. And today we're going to feature the constellation Hercules, or is it Spongebob Squarepants? All right. You decide, as it kind of looks like SpongeBob up there, one of my favorite cartoons from my daughter Jessie's age of you millennials out there. So I'm all about SpongeBob SquarePants and even the Powerpuff Girls occasionally. But we'll see if SpongeBob's up in the sky or not. Want everyone to thank them for the auction that was just awesome. I forgot to put that slide up, all the slides I've been doing this afternoon. But we made some good money for not only our consigners, but the museum as well. Thank you, Chuck Jeffrey. Here's Winston Scott, thanking you for your donation. Astronaut Winston Scott is the astronaut wrangler out there at the Space Center. He schedules the astronauts that the true wrangler, Nick Thomas, does. Nick will be here Monday with a special program on July 1st. We're looking forward to that. But here, if you have in your heart to give us some money, there's how you do it on YouTube. At the repeat shows, there's a little thank you button with a $sign and these levels there. And again, Winston, thank you for all the support of the museum. Tomorrow, Steve Agate is going to do a wonderful program on science fiction, inspiration for space flight. You baby boomers out there, remember some of the old TV shows, of course, the classic sci-fi movies of the 50s and 60s, including my favorite, Forbidden Planet from 1953. Steve's got a great program racked up. You're not going to want to miss this program, as Steve is a monthly visitor to Stay Curious. He's the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex communicator. There he's shown talking into a portable speaker system, showing some people around the Saturn V Center. And he's become a great friend of our museum and does great programs. You're not going to want to miss this one. And Wednesday, we got Mikey Haddad on usually every month. He wrote a book on payloads in the space shuttle, been an instrumental part of our Shuttle Fest. He will be this year involved with Shuttle Fest from the payload side. He had the privilege of working with Sally Ride on STS-7 and her other flight, I think it was 41C, and also worked with her on the Rogers Commission. So we got some personal insight from Mikey Haddad about the great astronaut Sally Ride, who this month became the first American female to orbit the Earth. And I love what Sally inspired young women everywhere, and she knew it, and her saying was, you can't be what you can't see. And millions of little girls become big girls, and even astronauts being inspired to what they saw in Sally Ride. So looking forward to Mikey on Wednesday. And then we'll probably get into some end of the shuttles of the month of June and some current events for the rest of the week this week. How many humans are orbiting the Earth? Well, count them up. We got 9 on the International Space Station and 3 in the Tiangong Chinese Space Station. We're all Earthlings. We all have to protect our Earth and the precious thin blue line that keeps us alive there. So got 9 up there on the Crew Dragon, the Crew Dragon 8's up there. Mike Barrett in the middle was supposed to do with his arms folded, was supposed to do a spacewalk with Tracy Dyson, Caldwell Dyson in the middle of the Soyuz MS-25 crew. We'll talk about that spacewalk that didn't happen today. Still, it was technically a spacewalk for 30 minutes. And our Starliner astronauts, Butch Wilmer, Commander, Sonny Williams, they are going to be extended way, maybe into the summer till they come back. Here's what an artist conception that NASA puts up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spacecraft docked at the ISS. There you see the Crew Dragons at the top. Its windows can actually look down on the Starliner. And we'll see a picture of that here in a minute. Then you got the Soyuz MS-25 off my shoulder. That will bring back the 2 Russians that will have spent a year on the space station, and Tracy Dyson back in September, as Crew Dragon's supposed to be swapped out for another Dragon, Crew 9, in September also. When's the Starliner coming back? Well, we don't know. But we do know one thing. They can come back. The spacecraft itself is very healthy. Everything's in good shape once they get rid of the trunk in the back, or the service module as it's called. That's where the problem is with the helium thrusters. Helium cleans the lines for the hypergolic thrusters, and the helium system has just gone awry. So they're doing a workaround that if there was an emergency on the space station, Butch and Sonny would get right back into that spacecraft and head to home. They know that its integrity will get them back. So don't listen to this. They're stranded in space or any of that stuff. But they're not coming back probably till mid-July at the earliest. We don't know for sure, as engineers are getting all the data they can of that service module, because that will be burned up in the re-entry in the Earth's atmosphere, most of it anyway, and they can't troubleshoot what's going on if they can't have it in their hands. Marty, you got something on your mind?
Yeah. I don't know if you want me to correct you or not, Mark, but I guess I will. The helium is not to clean the lines. You're in space, everything is those 0G, so there's the fluids, the liquid fluids, you have to pressurize with helium to push it down into the tanks.
Good, okay. I appreciate that clarification from a true space worker. I'm just a bookworm wannabe, but no, that's excellent. Thank you for pointing that out, Marty. But it's still, the whole system is not functioning the way they thought it would. This is the 3rd time, by the way, for Calypso to be in space, all right? Let me consult my notes on this, as I got away from my notes. Butch and Sonny were launched the 5th, and June 5th. They docked June 6th. This Calypso orbited the Earth in December 2019. That's when it had a configuration problem. It did land safely in the desert. Then a year later, in April 2019, it did another space flight, and then which was certified it to go to the space station and be human rated. But then they found some problems in it, like the wiring wasn't waterproof. So it took them 4 years to straighten out this spaceship with some of the anomalies they discovered. So $1 billion and 10 years behind schedule. It's Boeing's in the face of everybody out there, and they want to make sure everything's right and that they get figured out what's going on. Now, the Starliner is rated 45 days in space. That's the warranty on it that Boeing's put on it. That brings it up to July 21st, would be again the 45th day that it's been in space. So think about that timeline around July 20th, the 55th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. You know, that might somewhere around there, we're probably going to see them come back. So It will have to undergo a full agency level review if it goes beyond that, no matter what. They'll of course do all that. So, but the astronauts are safe. They're not stranded in space, by God. And there's many ways to get them home, including the Crew Dragon that could be fit for 6 people very easily, I'm sure. So, or they just stay up there, eat the food of Expedition 71, and come back, when they take a fresh spacecraft up there. Their lives are not in jeopardy. But the lives could have been in jeopardy. This is a screen grab from the NASA TV of, that's a Matthew astronaut coming out, Mike Barrett, and not Sonny, but Mike Barrett is coming out of the Quest interlock. In the background was Tracy Dyson. They were ready to do a spacewalk today to get a micrometeorite shield, change out some batteries, and no, they sprung a leak. So NASA canceled their spacewalk at the International Space Station after they had switched to internal power in their spacesuits at 8:46 a.m. and they called it off at about 9:51. It's still a spacewalk, folks. They were in the atmosphere of space with the door open. They just didn't go out. What happened was ice crystals started flowing out of Tracy Dyson's spacesuit. It just like a snow machine. There was ice forming at the port of her certain connection to the airlock. So they were in the final stages of disconnecting for the EVA. They were in the hatch when the leak happened with the external door open, but they closed it moments after the spacewalk was terminated. So they were exposed to the atmosphere of space in their spacesuits for 31 minutes was the length of that spacewalk. And it will go down as a spacewalk, okay? I didn't bring my glasses with me, but that's okay. Second time that this particular spacewalk was postponed, June 13th. The attempt was made, and here's a slide on that, where Tracy Dyson's in the middle of Matt Dominic, and then the other one there is Michael Barrett. Dominic was uncomfortable in his spacesuit. Probably maybe like having a pea underneath your mattress or something. Something was irritating him, but more so than that, he couldn't maybe move the gloves right or his arms right or something like that. So they terminated that. So what's going on? Well, these spacesuits are old, and I appreciate Tim Yoke commenting on our Facebook thread. Tim said those suits are absolutely worn out. I don't know how long it's been since we built a new one. Probably like 20 years, like my 2003 Jeep out here in the parking lot. Yeah, it'll work, but once in a while something goes bad on it, and I fix it because it's just like a car payment in a way. We got to get some new spacesuits up there. Larry Reed says that he was a integration engineer on the shuttle program for the environmental units, they call them EMUs. Larry Reed offers we had issues even then in the shuttle program, but now over a decade later, the suits are getting worn out. Most of the spare parts logistics chain has dried up. Fortunately, there are new EVA suit designs under test to replace the venerable but increasingly vulnerable shuttle EMU, extravehicular maneuvering unit. Great point there, Larry. These are space shuttle era spacewalking suits that were the hard hat astronauts used, and they cost millions and millions of dollars, and we need new ones up there, as we've had these problems far too frequently, I've seen on there. So little update there of space news going on. And another space item, there's our astronauts up there. That's Sonny and Butch in the blue, and the Expedition 71 crew, including in the middle, Konyenko, Russian, who is eclipsed 1,050 days total in space on his 5 years. You know what they're finding out? He's the most experienced space tour traveler ever, defeating over 150 days above his nearest Russian cosmonaut comrade. But you know what I'm reading in the newspapers? Not in the newspapers. I'm reading in the social media and so forth, Marty and Logan. Your kidneys. Kidneys have some serious problems in long duration flights, and they're finding that the kidneys, cell structures breaking down, kidneys could be the problem with humans going to Mars and back. Our kidneys apparently are designed for this one gravity that we have on Earth. So we'll try to do a program on that in the near future. So, all right, what else have I got going? A story that's going to hit the headlines tomorrow or the next day. That is that this Chinese lander on the backside of the moon is going to be bringing back 4 pounds of new lunar regolith that they hope has ice in it, okay, from the south pole of the moon. That is on its way back from the moon. China hasn't broadcast too much about the return, but we knew that June 25th was the celestial mechanics date for everything, for them to have this bounty of 4 pounds of lunar rock come up that was harvested by that robotic arm, put on the top of a ascent stage. This looks so much like the lunar module of the 60s in many ways, though it was only about the size of your vehicle in your driveway. But the canister will be hitting re-entry if it's not already, because it's daytime in Russia up there. They even had a time when it should come back, 9 in the morning, Russia time, but they didn't say which time zone. So we'll be looking forward to that news. China. I said China. I said Russia. I mean China. That is the Chinese flag flying on the moon on the descent stage that was made out of iron fabric, so it will stand forever up there on the moon, supposedly. This is where that descent stage is. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter photographed it last week. You see the white areas around it in the middle. That's the exhaust plume that stirred up lighter material underneath the dark regolith. I think it's so incredible it landed right between 2 craters right there in the middle. Wow, that was lucky. There it is on the moon. And here's the area of the moon where it landed, in a crater called Apollo. Can't make that stuff up. China landed on the Apollo crater that's at the south pole of the moon. There you're looking at the very bottom of the moon, south pole. And CE6 landing sites in the square there, rectangle I mean. And they are bringing back some material that might have frozen water in it, or hints of water that's been evaporated out of there quickly. It would sublimate. There would never be a pool of water. Sublimation means going from solid to gas immediately. So we'll find out. So let's see, keep your eyes to the news there, and we'll be keeping you curious about that on Stay Curious later in the week. Certainly by Thursday, after our 2 guests this week, Steve Agid and Mikey Haddad, will be talking about the landing. Well, I love taking you to your own backyard, because you can see things there, not as good as we could see 10, 15 years ago, even because of light pollution. But basically, you're going to be able to see down to 3rd magnitude. And what's going on in the sky today? Well, I'll tell you all about it here. But there's a term called noctalgia, meaning sky grief. And this is a scale of, on the far left is what they call Bortle 1. There's a Bortle scale, okay, named after a person named Bortle. Bortle 1 is very clear Milky Way sky that you see on the left-hand side. All the way to the lower the number, the darker the sky site is. So astronomers want to know what is at a Bortle 1 or Bortle 2 site or Bortle 3. It determines on some of the faint fuzzies they can see through their telescopes. But when you get to 8 or 9, you're only going to see the brightest planets and the moon from the downtown lights of a city metropolis. So sky grief. We are experiencing noctalgia, where astronomers like myself are nostalgic for the darker skies. And I do kind of feel that here. I love the Florida Space Coast, but when I lived in Tennessee, outside of Asheville, North Carolina, across the Blue Ridge from Asheville, I was going up to Damascus, Virginia within 40 minutes, and I could be in dark skies like Bortle 2 on the far left instead of your skies in your backyard are probably around the 5 there. You'd be seeing like the 5 and type of a little hint of the Milky Way, but not much more. Well, skymaps.com is a great source for you to download a free and also a lot of education on this Sky Maps. It's a free site. We get nothing out of publicizing them. By the way, in the upper right there is one of the rages, $500. Marty, you can buy this, put it outside your backyard, your outside the lanai of your swimming pool, okay? And on your smart tablet, you will start seeing things downloaded to your smart tablet, like globular clusters or planets or whatever you want to see. It will automatically point. There's no eyepiece to it. There's nothing to look through. You look at your smart tablet to do that. Well, speaking of my smart tablet here, I hadn't cranked up the guests watching today, so let me do that as I'm showing you the Sky Maps map for June. And the blue is, of course, the Milky Way. And this is set for 11 o'clock. What does it say there? Yeah, 11 o'clock in early June and 10 o'clock in late June. Okay. So let me go to my American Space Museum here. This is kind of slow. So what we're going to look at here is that we have setting in the west, Leo the Lion, that we talked a lot about, okay? We love Leo the Lion. Leo is the first sign of spring there. A backward question mark and the right triangle denote it. But it's going to be leaving us shortly after 11 o'clock at night. In the middle, at the bottom up there, at the top, I'm looking for the Big Dippers right there, where my finger is, right up there. And you see the arrow pointing to the North Star, Polaris, okay? And then you see a kite in the middle. See that kite right there with the bright star? You follow the arc of the Big Dipper's arc, and that'll take you to Arcturus, and you speed on to Spica, this star here. Note the ice cream cone or triangle, and then to the left over here is a square of stars with other stars like dot to dot coming off of it. And that is Hercules. Or is it? Maybe it's Spongebob. All right, well, we'll clarify that here in a second. But to help you talk like an amateur astronomer, okay, how old is the moon right now? All right, well, full moon was Friday, the 22nd, okay? So this is the 25th. I mean, the 24th. So the moon is 16 days old. In that you see the 17 days old. So the moon's going to be a gibbous phase, we call it. And it will be last quarter phase on 21 days old on next Friday. All right. And when the moon is last quarter, it rises at about midnight. So the moon is creeping back further into the night, into the morning sky, and that's a good thing. So we can, as stargazers, get out in the 8 hours of dark we have. I mean, it doesn't get dark really good till 9:30, 10 o'clock. So avid stargazers like me, if you're going to be out, you're going to be out till after midnight looking at something, and then you got to go in and get some sleep. Whereas in the wintertime, when it gets dark at 6, 7 o'clock, I can do 2 or 3 hours of stargazing from 8 to 10 or 11 or 12 and have a lot of fun. So definitely summertime's not a great time to be stargazing. Steve Jokum says hi to all the gang here, to Logan, Marty, and all of us. Thank you, Steve, from Fox Lake, Illinois, in his Lake County spaceport business of decals for your models. Check Steve out. Got Doug Forrest is watching. I'd already seen you, Doug, with my big telescope there. I knew you were watching me there. So And Carlton Bailey says howdy. He made it through another weekend. And Tommy Usiak again. Remember that, Tom, on the spelling bee? They had the magic mirror that would see people in there. So where's your brother Mark? I'm looking for him. Don't see Mark there. Maybe he's hunkered over his desk there right now. So appreciate everybody chiming in on our programs. Well, Ursa Major, the Big Bear, the Big Dipper is just the hindquarters of it. It's fun to check all those things out in a dark area. By the way, the feet here are called the leap of the gazelle. And really, that's what they look like. They're two stars, two pairs of stars, bank, bank, bank. And particularly when the Big Dipper's upside down, it's over. If you look at the north, it's going to be on the left side of Polaris. But it does look like a leaping prince in the sky up there. You got to use your imagination. That's what the fun of stargazing is all about, is using your imagination. So you can use the Big Dipper to gauge things. We say a lot like the moon is 5 degrees from Jupiter. It'd be pretty close if you see that it's 5 degrees between the pointer stars, we call them, Dubhe and Merrick of the Big Dipper, okay? If I say Jupiter's going to be 25 degrees away from the moon tonight, well, that's the size of the Big Dipper. That's like, a big chunk of sky, all right? Keep in mind, from directly overhead to the horizon, let's do it this way, to the horizon is 90 degrees, all right? And then half of that's 45 degrees, all right? And half of that is 20 degrees. So the Big Dipper handle, the bowl do comprise about a good 1/8 of the sky. So there's some good things to direct you in the sky, because we're talking about degrees all the time. And here's the names of the Big Dipper's main stars. You got Dubhe and Merrick, Magri's and Thecta. Now, all these stars are like second magnitude, except for Magri's is third magnitude. So you're going to barely see Magri's from your backyard, but you'll see the others. Just look to the north, all right? From down here, that's where Dave Stange is, looking to Detroit. All right, if you're Gary Gerald, look up north, okay, up to Tennessee from Georgia, all right? And to the left is going to be, the Big Dipper is going to be on the left-hand side there. You got the Big Dipper stars of Alcade, Mizar, Alcor, and Alioth. Now wait, I said 2 stars for the middle star of the handle. Well, it's really Alcor, but it's got a double star that is not orbiting it, but so close they look like they're orbiting each other, and like that. So these are fun to see with your eyesight. I always go outside and look up at the Big Dipper when you can see it. Of course, you can see it all year long. Just in the winter time, it's dragging against the horizon, and it's hard to see. But I see if I can see both stars of the middle star of the Big Dipper's handle. And if you can see Alcor there, it is a, Mizar's the brighter one. Alcor's the least bright. Then you know it's a pretty clear night. M101 is a galaxy. M108 is another galaxy. M97 is another object we've talked about, the Owl Nebula. There's a photograph of the 2 stars in the handle. They're separated. This star here at the bottom is actually orbiting Alcor there. But now let's look at, away from the Big Dipper, Arcturus. You take the handle of the Big Dipper, it will arc you to Arcturus, which is directly overhead right now at 10 o'clock. It's the 3rd brightest star in the sky, and it is directly overhead. But there you've got Hercules, known for the keystone of 4 stars. And see that circled M13? That's what we're going to look at here in a minute. That's a globular cluster, just like M92, like a big beehive of stars that are outside our galaxy and orbiting our galaxy, like atoms around a nucleus. But we're going to see between Boötes, the herdsman, though it looks like a kite or an ice cream cone. Boötes was the name of a herdsman that was herding the bears, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor around the sky. In between is a U-shaped group of stars collected. It's called Corona Borealis. All right, this is the crown of an Egyptian queen, a real person in life that her king husband immortalized her by throwing the crown in the sky. And we're going to look for a star to explode, they say, by September, where that arrow is. So if you see the curve of the star, the curve of Corona Borealis, the two bright stars, Nusakan and Gemma, all right, this star you cannot see right now, as you see Corona Borealis there in the middle. It's too faint. You need binoculars to see it, but it's going to flare up and be as bright as these two stars here. So it's some minutia to take note of as you go out every night. Regular astronomers like myself, and believe me, there's only like 1 million of us worldwide, will go out nightly and look and see if the blaze star has indeed erupted. Now we know the pattern of the stars every 80 years. It gets brighter after being dim. And we know what's going on. It is, we talked about that last week, stay curious. It is the star that is being devoured by another star. There is Hercules with his loincloth, one of the great heroes of mythology, forever up in the sky like that. And again, and this is almost directly overhead, okay? The bright star directly overhead will be Arcturus. And if you look around, I can see this very easily from my light-polluted skies of Port St. John. But the three stars for sure you can see, and then that fourth one, the keystone there, Epsilon. These are Greek alphabet letters there is what astronomers use, and also with names. So, but the arms coming off of it, actually has the brightest star Beta in it, though Alpha is usually the bright star name. But does this remind you the body in the center, the dot to dot imagination of the arms? Yeah, that's Spongebob Squarepants, all right. See it? No, Marty doesn't see it, but he's pretending he does just for me. Thanks, Marty. But so, this bears to mind, if you want to call it Spongebob instead of Hercules, I don't care. No one owns the originals. You can rename all the constellations, but you have to go to the International Astronomical Union to get them officially changed to what they are now. But have fun with it. You could create among the stars that you see in your backyard, connect the dot to dots and make up your own constellations. Every culture on this beautiful world has done so. In fact, the Chinese constellations aren't very small like this one. They do span the brightest stars they connect and forget about some of the small ones in between. But it's beautiful to know your way around the sky like a road map, okay? And to get that road map, and I've shown this many times, you get a planisphere, okay? Planisphere, nickname for planet sphere, and you set the date on the edge here. You see the dates and times are set on there. Where's our August? There's my June date and July right there. I set it at 10 o'clock at night, and then these are the star patterns up there. You lay under the starry canopy in a comfy lawn chair with a red flashlight, because that doesn't hurt your eyesight, though all the light pollution from your neighbors will probably do a good job of doing it. You might be able to see it in there, but there's always a point where you cross the line into, now I'm getting it, now I'm there. It's just like being in college, and something difficult for me like was calculus that I was horrible at. But I remember moments of like getting a C on a calculus test and thinking, man, if I just had enough time to study, I could have got a B, because I'm so close to understanding all this stuff. So those of us that love education know what I'm talking about. So is it SpongeBob or not? Well, let's just pretend it is and have fun there and down in where's he live? He lives in a pineapple, Marty. Bikini Bottom, that's where he lives, in Bikini Bottom Beach there with Sandy and Squidward and who's the big starfish?
Patrick.
Patrick the starfish. Thank you, Logan. He likes SpongeBob. How can you not like SpongeBob? Once again, we're going to show you this Corona Borealis in the center, and on the left-hand side, there might be a star as bright as the one that's shown there. So, again, look at M13, and this is M13 through a friend of mine's photography, Mark Poole in the Atlantic, and Sky Polluted Skies. That's what's amazing is the astrophotography compensates for the light pollution, and Mark took like 50 1-minute exposures, okay, over a 3-hour run on the night, and you combine them all. Look at the globular cluster of stars. Now, in binoculars or this telescope here, you can see the faint fuzzies of it. All right, it looks like a fuzzy little dust ball under your bed. That's what most of these things look like. In photography, you see the stars. You cannot see the stars of this. You get hinted at in some bigger telescopes. Actually, over here is a galaxy in the lower left. But look at that gold star at the bottom and the bluish star at the top. So distinct. This was the first object I found on my own as an 8-year-old boy in the backyard of Findlay, Ohio, Northwest Ohio. I swear to God, with a telescope just like this, $100 J.C. Penney's, probably cost $25 at the time in the 60s. But I remember finding this, and those 2 stars on either side of it are your guideposts to it. And it's right there, and it's so cool. Well, a friend of mine, David, in North Carolina, he took a picture of the globular cluster there. This is about like what it looked like through binoculars, okay? But what David do to the picture there, that looks like something like the Twilight Zone introduction where they throw everything up there. What you're looking at on my green screen back here, let me go back to that. Let's get that off of there. You are looking at satellites that have crossed the path throughout the night of him doing 21-second exposures, okay? And each time a satellite, now some of these are Starlink satellites, all right? And others are just plain other satellites. So just not the Starlink satellites, but other satellites are interfering with even backyard amateur astronomers' photographs, all right? And this is really becoming a problem to professionals as I look and see where I'm at here with the, there you see the, let me go forward. There again is that, and Corona Borealis there we're going to show you. But let's go back to show you the real problem. Now, there is a computer program that will take all these out. But where they crossed, you're losing some data there. And Marty brought into me something that I'm just going to shock everybody with, okay? A newspaper. This is ink and newsprint, okay? Old school. Of course, I'm being facetious and funny because not many people putting their hands in newspaper, particularly when this Sunday newspaper, oh, it doesn't have the price on it, Marty. I think it costs $4. Oh, $4.49 for the Sunday newspaper. All right. This paper boy cannot believe that. All right. $4.49. Oh my God. Right down there at the QR code. I am not lying, man. Look at that. $4.49. All right. Just to let you know. So great stories on here. SpaceX dominates the launch market. Our friend Rick Neal has done stories on the museum. SpaceX has put 525 payloads in the first quarter, talking not even May and June, while Russia has put up 24 satellites and China 27. And SpaceX has put up 525 satellites. Just incredible. And then Brooke Edwards, we need to get Brooke on the show here because she's a space writer and she's a solar system ambassador is what I'm trying to say. She is talking about, though, the Starlink system, of satellites is linking up people around the world that don't have internet. It is the bane of amateur astronomers. And inside here is a big long story, okay, with one of her pictures, Brooke's pictures there of a meteor or satellite on there. Quoting our friend Eric Perlman, who's been on our show and talked about black holes, and we need to have Eric back. He's been on our Shuttle Fest program and talked about this, and he's very quoted from Florida Tech as, yes, we can work around it, but you don't understand some of the data is compromised, and you have to have someone look through all kinds of data, like 20 gigabytes of disk storage during a typical $150,000 night on one Sierra Tololo in Venezuela or something like that. So it's just not as easy as it is to eliminate all this. So don't let it be said that astronomers are not being affected by these Starlink satellites. And I read a story, Marty and Logan, where the radio astronomy community now, a silent community in a very small sector of astronomy that, like ham radio operators, listens for signals from stars and other objects, including Jupiter has its own radio signal it emits. Radio astronomy is very important to filling in the blanks of the visual and infrared and X-ray and all the other sources that we're seeing on the electromagnetic spectrum. The radio community is actually having interference from the broadcast because Starlink, if you didn't know, is basically a cell tower, a cell phone tower in orbit. That's why there's a train of them, one behind the other, so you have a continuous link, like railroad cars that are your cell phone tower, that you're from the ground to the sky actually hitting a signal off of. It's not going to a cell phone tower and then up to the satellite. That's what it's about. And Elon Musk, of course, SpaceX, wants the brainchild of this, wants to get a backpack size receiver. Remember the big old satellite dishes? Marty does, Logan does, and he's too young. But boy, them satellite dishes were, God, what were they? 8 feet in diameter, some of them, Marty? 6 feet? And in places like West Virginia, where you couldn't get cable TV or hardly even antenna TV, that become known as the satellite dish was the new state flower of West Virginia. They said at one time. There were so many of them, but God, they were huge. Status symbol too. You saw that big 6-foot satellite dish behind someone's house. Yeah, they had some money to afford that. Okay, wasn't cheap back in the day. So that's what's going on. As I tell you a little bit about the Starlink satellites up there. My God, I have to count the number of launches I miss now to count how many I see. I was at my storage unit, Marty. We've all got storage units, I know. And when Sundays launched, 1:15, and I was going to go out and watch it, and I heard the rumble. But we've had some loud rumbles. One Friday was loud, and the one Sunday was loud. Logan's nodding his head. You heard it nice and loud, Logan?
I was working. I was right next to it.
You were next to me?
Next to it.
Oh, you were next to it. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Out at the Space Center? Working out there? Good. It shot right up in the clouds, though. We couldn't see that one very long. So, anyway, that's what's going on with Starlink. These are satellites crossing in front of the great galaxy of Hercules, the globular cluster, we call it. And that's what it looks like, a faint little fuzzy. That's like with binocular power. That would be like 7 by 35 binoculars. It's that big. All right, let's talk a little bit more space history here real quick. What's going on in the news? A couple of items I wanted to apprise you of. This is an incredible photograph. Actually, this photograph, I want to show you that photograph first. A latest image from the Webb telescope that is continually blowing people's minds. This is, and my notes are right here. This extraordinary photo by the James Webb is in the Serpens Nebula, all right, which is to the south in between the easy constellations to see. Near Sagittarius, it looks like a teapot, and Scorpio, it looks like a fishhook. 1,300 light years from Earth, the James Webb Space Telescope has imaged a special phenomenon long theorized to exist but never observed. Now, these hash marks are from the optical instrument itself. Those are all stars between us and this gaseous nebula. Look up in the upper left-hand corner, and for the first time, those streaks, NASA calls them sleet pouring down during a storm. These are clouds that are collapsing to form stars. The stars will tend to spin in the same direction. Those long squiggly lines there are clouds that are spinning around, collapsing on themselves in a big spiral, creating planets. Why haven't we seen them before? Well, it's a perfect alignment with the James Webb, and the James Webb telescope is looking through dust and other things. It's like the infrared camera that police departments have. They could go by your house with that infrared camera and see the warm bodies, who's in the chairs, where the dog's laying on the floor. Yes, they can do that by looking through your walls of your house to see the warm bodies in there with an infrared camera. That's what's happening right here with the Webb telescope, is seeing stars and planets being formed. Proto outflows of stars. We've never seen them line up in the same direction, and this is like sleet pouring down in a storm, these streaks. Okay. We just previously saw them as blobs, but invisible wavelengths. Now you can chalk up another discovery due to the imaging power of the Webb telescope there. So just a phenomenal, and a picture like this will create a dozen doctorate degrees probably in astronomy for the undergraduates that will be taking this information and learning all they can about it. Look at this star down here at the bottom, the white chevron there. That's an item that, you keep looking and you're going, this is a gaseous cloud, and on the other side of it is a clearing with a star poking through it in the background there. So, wanted to make everyone aware of here at the end of our Backyard Astronomy program that Asteroid Day is this weekend. It is technically June 30th, when over Siberia a comet or asteroid, small asteroid or meteor, big meteor blew up and leveled millions of miles of forest. All right, no human beings were there to see it. It was felt in Moscow in 1903, and that is the day we chose to say not if, but when the next cosmic catastrophe will happen because of something hitting the Earth. Mark Polanski's going to be there, Julie Payette, and Dmitry Pernary, all space flyers, astronauts, cosmonauts, if you will, that are going to talk about this. It's going to be broadcast over live during virtual media. So go to asteroidday.com. It's in Luxembourg, all right? And we'll be talking more about that on Thursday and Friday on Stay Curious. So just wanted to get you prepared for that. I'll be watching it over the weekend. So hope that Mitchell is at the Manned Space. Got Dave Stange, Steve Jokums. He and I are both disappointed at the Scuderia Ferrari team. Didn't do so good in Spain, but we're on to Austria, right? Right there, Steve. So love to find an F1 fan that you can talk shop with. So very rare indeed. Remember, folks, that we got a planet to care about. We are Earthlings, each and every one of us, now up to 8 billion human beings on this planet. And the only border that should matter is the thin blue line. You want to go out there and see some things I talked about? Download heavensabove.com or Spot the Station. Thought I had that in here, but didn't. These are apps that will go to your phone that you can see these satellites going overhead at any particular time in space. So let me get out there and do some more stargazing in the backyard there, okay? There's Gary Gerald. I knew he was watching today, just getting off his farm tractor there. And yep, Mark Usiak waving at me from the window up there in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Thank you all for being part of our program and supporting our museum. We will have a great time this weekend. Just tell your friends to watch Stay Curious live at 4 o'clock or anytime on YouTube, as we will have tomorrow. Let me just shoot that up there real quick. Oh, there was the Spot the Station app for up there. How that looks. No space station views this weekend from the Space Coast, so we'll look forward to some maybe next week. And wanted to say stay curious tomorrow for Steve Agid and Wednesday for Mikey Haddad, all right? So Steve's going to have a great show. You're going to love reminiscing about science fiction and how it's influenced our space programs. Even where did the countdown of 10, 9, 8 originate? Stay curious with us tomorrow and you'll learn it with me, Mark Marquette, as I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us. Let's look at some more deep sky wonders.